This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net. And today our show is being brought to you by the Motivation Champs, which is Dominic Domansky. Dominic has been on Avoid the Maze in the past. And for whatever reason, my phone just started ringing. It shouldn't have been ringing. Don't know how that happened. So I apologize to our listeners. But the Motivation Champs is Dominic Domansky, and one of his clients happens to be John GrDina, just like he said, like Tony the Tiger. There's a gur in it. And I'm really excited about having John on because it's not very often that I have a guest on who's from Cleveland. And our show, as we talk about, we are not just Cleveland, but John has a journey that he's been on, like all of us. And here it is, December 30th, and 2 days there will be a new year. And some of you may be sitting back saying, you know what? I'm just going in the same pace over and over again. And I lived my life like that for a very long time. But the day that I finally woke up and said, enjoy each step, even the step that makes you trip, fall, and think you can't get up, enjoy it, because guess what? You can get up if you want to. So, John, as I said before we went live, you have a huge journey that you've been on. And I don't think you are that old to have experienced all those things. So give us a little bit of background.
Well, thanks for having me on today. I truly appreciate it. And it is great to be a Clevelander, born and bred since 1982. So I am young. I'm not 40 yet. I'll be there next year. But a little bit of background of who I am. I was raised in a family of four, older brother, younger sister in the Cleveland area. And I just had loving parents. They just would do anything for us to help us prosper, to just give us a good life. That didn't mean give us everything physically. It meant to guide us in the right direction. So I graduated from Perry, which is eastern suburb, about, I'd say 40 minutes east of Cleveland. And I vowed I would never go back because it was its own little bubble community, not a lot of diversity. So I went to John Carroll University in 2000, graduated in 2004, where I met my wife. We met our senior year. She is also a teacher, teaches on the west side of Cleveland. And we just fell in love with the area. Got married in 2007 and have been living in our same house since then. We also have four beautiful children, and they attend Community Saints School, which is right here in Cleveland Heights. And I tell you what, it's been a blessing to have learned how to become a good parent, and then also now be a good parent, or try to be the best parent I can be every day.
I love that. Yeah, because there's no guide that comes with it before you conceive a child. So you have no idea really what's going to happen in those 9 months. And then you have a child, and I guarantee you all 4 of yours have differences.
Completely different. You raise them all the same, and you wonder how the heck can they be so different?
Exactly.
But it's a joy to watch them grow up. My kids are 11, 9, 6, and 3. So I'm in the thick of it right now, my wife and I. And I'll tell you what, COVID did not help at all in regards to having virtual learning at home while my wife and I were virtually teaching. So that was adversity in itself when 2020 hit.
So 2021, you've been both back in the classrooms. Okay. And for those of you who are listening today or within the next couple of days, December and January 2021 to 2022, here in the Cleveland area, we've been hit again pretty hard with COVID. And listening to the news this morning, there are some school districts that say, we will be back in the classroom on Monday, and there are others that are saying, no, we're going to take another week or 2 off. So again, that's got to be an upheaval for you and your wife, because things can change, at a snap of a finger.
Well, personally, we had COVID run through my immediate family
Wow.
in the past week. So long story short, I think like 11 days ago, my son tested positive, and then my wife tested positive, I think a day before Christmas Eve. So then we have not seen our extended family at all. And my wife and I, being Italian, it's so hard for us not to be around family during this time. So it's the first time ever in my entire life that I've never been around my family during the holidays. And it
Wow.
hurt bad, because we love it. Like anybody, most people enjoy being around family and friends and just seeing each other, being around their company, catching up, almost like my brother said, it's like a reunion almost
Right.
every year. And it wasn't. So we have been suffering through that. God willing that everyone is healthy, which is great. So we beat COVID and we're moving forward. And in regards to teaching, we've had her school and my school both are going to be open. And
Okay.
I'm very happy with that decision, because it is very difficult for students to be online learners. And again, like I just told my story, being away from people, being away from even friends and teachers and just that environment, it's very difficult for a lot of kids in their emotional health. And I learned that their emotional health is in schools, and everybody, not just students, but everyone's emotional health is always at stake when you have that gap of feeling needed, wanted, just feeling you have a camaraderie, right? Just
Right.
a friendly camaraderie. So I know that districts have a difficult task at hand of, we're trying to slow the spread, trying to make the best decision, because each district is different. I'll preface with that. So I think every leader in a school district has to make the best decision for their school at that time. But I will say this, if you can be in-house, it is the best way to learn.
Well, and many of us, especially myself, growing up in the 50s and 60s, I don't even think I ever even had a snow day back then, because we didn't have buses. So we were walking back and forth to school. But I remember, thinking, God, wouldn't it be nice if we could have, an extra week off? Or, wow, what if we didn't have to go to school for the month of January? And I didn't understand back then how much being around people, being in that classroom made a difference. And now that I've been around a lot of young people who have experienced that, my heart goes out to them, because they're missing out on, certain things in their life, making friends, number one, learning how to share better. And then when you get into the high school, all the extracurriculars, plus, maybe even going out on your first date. How do you do that on a computer? So
I think for everyone that needs to hear this, that a lot of kids, when they're home, it's not a good environment to be home. And it's better to be at school for a lot of reasons. And this is not a knock on parents, because I'm going to be honest, like, it's always, you get a little stir, there's two things to look at. Either you get stir crazy being at home, or you're at home in an environment that's not healthy.
Exactly.
So like I said, it's very important for all students to be in the classroom as much as possible. And you know what? Hopefully this is the end of it in 2022, that we're done with these changes, and that we can move past COVID and the pandemic, and we could actually have just the more freedoms of being back to the norm of what we used to have.
So you mentioned in the beginning, you grew up, just east of Cleveland in a small town. And, if you want to Google where Perry is, you can find it. Is that where the Perry plant is?
It is.
I
It is where the
thought so.
fairy plant. Yeah.
Right.
I
Okay.
glow at night, just in case everyone wanted to know.
It's funny how people relate to different cities.
Mhm.
And I heard somebody not too long ago just said something about the Perry plant. And I said,
Mhm.
and they said it was in Cleveland. I said, well, not quite, but you have to go through Cleveland to see it. But you grew up in a small town, you decided that that's not where you wanted to be. Okay.
Yeah.
And for those listening, John Carroll University is in Cleveland Heights. And one of the amazing things about Cleveland compared to other cities I've lived in, Cleveland Heights has always been an area where there's a lot of diversity.
Mhm.
And that diversity, for the most part, lives in harmony. And it's amazing because you go to other cities and they sometimes try this, I'm going to go back to the old neighborhood. The homes have been built well. There's stores. It's not a desert. It is a great place to live. And they may have a Chinese neighbor on one side, a Mexican neighbor across the way, a Black family, and everybody just says, this is great. So how do you think Cleveland Heights does this now that you've been living there as long as you have?
Well, I think the way Cleveland Heights is set up is it accepts everybody. I think looking at it from a Christian standpoint, we're all God's children, and the way that Cleveland Heights accepts diversity and promotes diversity throughout the community is a way that everyone feels, I would say, safe and secure of, not worrying about what people judge them based on their color, their race, gender, whatever it is. And I think that's a good thing because you're going into a community where you'll be accepted. I'll put it that way.
And especially in today's world,
Mhm.
that is the key. And if we can all take lessons from Cleveland Heights, that would be absolutely wonderful. So I started out by saying that you've been working with Dominic because you're writing a book. Okay. So what made you think, John, that you could or should write a book? And what's it about?
Okay. Well, the journey began in almost 2000, I think 9 or 10, where I wrote a manuscript called ABCs to Life, which is attitude, belief, and choices really dictate your path in life. So then I didn't think it was good enough. I had someone read it and they're like, yeah, it started out good, but it wasn't great. So I had doubt that I could ever be an author one day. So then 2018, I'll never forget, I was administering the ACT test at my school. And all of a sudden, I just had this feeling to just start writing. So we weren't allowed to use technology as teachers. You were only allowed to have paper and pencil. So I just started writing down while the test was going on chapters of this book. And it just started flowing. And I wrote a paragraph about each chapter. And then I'm like, you know what? I need to finish this, what I started. And it's not the same book by any means, but I need to finish writing this book that I was meant to write. So it started in 2018. And then I really got serious, I would say, in 2020, when I met a guy listening to a podcast. And this is how a podcast can change people's lives. I was running a marathon by myself, and I was listening to a podcast called 3 of 7 Project. And this guy was on named Jeff Forrester. And he wrote a book in 2 months during the beginning of the pandemic. And I thought to myself, how did he make it seem so easy? I've been trying to write a book for years, basically. So I direct messaged him on Instagram, and then we started talking. We did a Zoom, and we talk every day now. And he basically told me what he learned about how to write a book. And it's all about being intentional and being disciplined. So the intent was finish the book. The discipline is write 250 words per day. So if you can do that, it's like anything, like for running, let's use that for an example. Well, I want to run a marathon. well, you better start running a couple miles a day, and then you progressively move up in mileage. And then before you know it, you could get to 26.2. So when this all happened, my mindset started shifting to where it was of doubt to belief. So then Molding Minds premise really is from doubt to success, and how to have a blueprint to get out of, I call it either the circle of chaos in your brain or the environment which you're in, and how do you can actually move forward with action steps that I've learned in my life to help those who are going to read it.
Well, it's interesting because on many of our shows, we talk about those voices that we hear in our head. And you mentioned in the beginning, you were brought up by two loving parents, had a great family life. But I'm sure, as great as everything was, there were times that either you thought you heard something negative or you actually did hear something negative, and it sticks with you. And then you go to do something, and that little voice comes out and it says, no, John, you're not good enough. And you go, well, I think I am. No, John, you're not good enough. And it gets louder and louder in your head. And you say, you know what? You're right. I'll do something else. We all have these voices, okay? That doesn't mean that we are on the brink of, craziness, because they're the thoughts and memories that stay within us. So obviously there was a big shift for you come 2018. Just hearing a podcast that sparked you and said, okay, he can't be that much smarter than me, any better than me. And even if he is, I'm going to learn from it. So what was his reaction when you connected with him? Because there are some people who are going to go, no, this is my glory, not yours.
Well, his reaction was open arms, and he embraced the message I sent him on Instagram, and he was all for it, just trying to help. And Jeff Forrester is an amazing man because his love for others. And what I've learned is by Jeff, his example, that he gets filled up, literally his cup gets filled up by helping others. And it's a joy to witness. So when we went through this process and he didn't tell me anything more than maybe a 5-minute conversation of what to do. And it was so simple. But the bottom line was, John, just start. And if you do small steps each day, you're going to have the product that you've always envisioned. So I think exactly what you're saying is we have this doubt in our head that we can't do something, when in fact we all can do something. It's that we just actually have to start moving in the right direction. And people sometimes they play it in their head so much that they have this doubt and I'm a failure, or no one's going to like it, or who would want to listen to my story. Guess what? You have no idea that one person's life you could change by writing your story, or just putting a blog or a YouTube video. It's beautiful to witness we're all given gifts. And this is the way I look at it this way. This is really my why. I have learned that you were born with a purpose, that God gave everybody gifts. Whether you believe it or not, you have gifts that are given to you. Now, for me as a Christian, to honor my father, I'm going to utilize all my gifts to my maximum potential, because I'm honoring him. Okay. So I have to use my creativity, and I'm I'm blessed with being artistic, being athletic, being a good writer, being a father, being a coach, and now a podcaster. So I have all these gifts, and I never thought I could do all these things well until I believed in myself. So I guess for everyone listening, just start believing in yourself. And I would just take one gift that you have and focus on that one thing, and then start moving at one step at a time each day with that gift. And before you know it, you'll have a product that you never thought was possible before.
You are so right. I remember I was in my junior year of high school, and I was told by a teacher that even though I didn't interrupt the class, I had a great way of sharing information. And I looked at her thinking, who are, I don't even know what you're talking about, and she'd say, when you think about something and you share it properly, she said, you are an extremely intelligent young girl. And I didn't feel that way about myself, but I decided, okay, I'm going to join the debate club. And that's what she encouraged me to do, because she said, you're going to have to research and you're going to see what you can do. And our first debate that we went to, we should have won, except we had one person on the team who got a little overzealous. And afterwards, I went up to my coach, almost in tears, and saying, it's not fair. And he looked at me and he said, life is not fair. Now, what is it that you want to do with your life? And at that point, I just felt beaten up. And it was like, I don't want to be in the debate club. I don't want to ever do any of this ever again. I'm going to be a silent mouse. And he goes, no, you won't. But that's what you want to do right now. Go ahead. But you better take a step in another direction, because otherwise you're wasted. And I went home and I said something to my father. And my father said, you're not a quitter. You can change your path. That's not quitting, but you've got to get on a path. And I remember going to my room, 17 years old, crying my eyes out. I don't know who I want to be anymore. My life is over. And like in 10 minutes, all of a sudden it was like, no, I'm not quitting the debate team. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to learn. And I think that's sometimes the problem that many of us have, that when things don't go the way we think they're supposed to go, it's so much easier just to up and quit. But when my father said, it's okay to change your path, that's when I realized I didn't want to change my path at the time, but I could if I needed to. And it sounds like you've been down that road as well.
Oh, I think one of the lessons I learned is that being comfortable equals no growth. Let's be honest.
Yep.
And the reason why I run now, and I'll tell you just a short story, because I read a book called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins in 2019 in February. And I got a little overweight. My wife had her fourth child, getting comfortable, right?
Yeah.
I gained 30 pounds. I stepped on the scale at Christmas time at my grandma's house, and I never forget. I'm like, this isn't who I am. I've been an athlete my entire life, and I let myself go. So a friend of mine gave me this book to read, and it literally took the governor off my brain of what I can and can't do. So then I started running while I'm reading this book, and all this. And the running part was a discipline. See, that's where I think a lot of people say, well, I'm not a runner. Well, that's fine. Just walk then. Just do something you're going to go outside in the elements, especially in Cleveland when it's snowing.
Yep.
And go outside before your day starts for 20, 30 minutes and have some quiet time, but you're actually moving forward and you're learning about yourself. So you're becoming uncomfortable, but with that, you get growth. And the growth is this, is what I learned. Don't set limits on what you can or can't do. So I told myself, I can never run a half marathon, because that one time I ran, I got dizzy and I didn't feel comfortable. So I can never run 13.1 miles. So you know what I did when I read that book? I'm going to sign up for a half marathon. And then when I did do it in October of 2020 or 2019, I'm sorry, I laughed at the end of it, how easy it was. And then I did a marathon, which was during the pandemic. So I was training for a marathon, and I just stayed the course. And then I did a virtual marathon, and I got done, and I was broken. I'm not going to lie. That was very difficult, but I said I would never do one again. So what did I do? I ran 2 more marathons, and then I did an ultra marathon at the end of the year. But you learn about yourself when you go through the fire of adversity. And running allows me to have time to digest and think and reflect about my life. And I think not a lot of people get that time. You know why? Because of their phone
Oh, yeah.
or other. You there's two things, two D words that people need to understand very clearly. One is doubt, and the other is being distracted. When you have doubt and distractibility, you're gonna have no growth. You're gonna actually have, again, I go back to, you're gonna be in this circle of chaos where you don't move forward in your life, and you're wasting all your gifts that you're given. So if you can be intentional and have small steps, then you're moving in the direction that you were meant to go, which was success for yourself, but more meaningful success for others because you're influencing them in a positive way.
You know, this conversation is just making me feel so happy moving forward, going into 2022. I had a conversation with another podcaster yesterday, and she wants to take her show in a new direction, and it's going to be all about hope. Okay. And I'm so glad that she came up with that, because so many of us, especially in the last year, when we thought, we're going to get the vaccines, COVID's going to be part of the past, everybody's going to be back at work, everything's going to be back to normal. And it's not. And this may be the normal. Okay. But she said, so many of us have lost hope because we had expectations. And so we started talking about the fact that when I started podcasting in 2015, I had no real expectations. I just knew that I had a story to tell, but I wanted to hear other people's stories as well and say, wow, we've both been there. How did you handle it? Not that I'm necessarily going to handle it the same way John does, but I'm going to have some insight now. Okay. And reaching out to a different audience every single day is wonderful, because I'm becoming stronger as a person. And I think in many ways, that's probably what you're doing as well, John. People are seeing you run your marathons. They're listening to your podcast. They're going to read your book when it comes out. They see you at church and see that you are a family man. Those are all things that we can take from you and go, how does John do it? Because if John can do it, I should be able to do it too. But I may have to go down a different road to get there. And it may not be as easy for me. And then again, how easy was it for John to prepare for that marathon, or to actually sit down and start writing 250 words a day, because you've got a busy schedule, you know? But we all make those excuses, don't we? I don't have time for this.
Yeah, that's the biggest excuse in the book. And I think what has helped me is, once you know your why, then you become motivated. So what I mean by that is this. So my why now is to exhaust my gifts, right, for others, because I want to be hope for them, and I want to be a light for them in their life, because that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity I have to work with you today, to have your listeners today say, you know what? I've been doing the same thing for 10, 20, 30 years, and I'm miserable, and I'm sick of it. How can I change? Well, I'm going to tell you I'll tell you a couple quick things that I do to help. Okay. Number one is get a journal, blank, whatever, and a pen. Start with that. It's so important. And just write down anything, what your thoughts are, maybe what you did for the day. And I used to do this, and I changed how I do my journaling now, but what could I have done better today? That's it. One simple question. What could I have done better today? But the first thing you do every morning that works for me since 2015 is that I wake up and pray. And I'll tell you why. The reason why I do that is because I can't do anything well unless I know that I'm doing the will of the Father. Now, that's me personally. That may be different for somebody else, but I'm telling you this, to have quiet time, and whether it's prayer or meditation, allows you to start thinking about the mission in your life. It's all about the mission. While you're reading or praying, drink a glass of water. Your brain is made up of 75% water. So you better get your brain going in the right direction first thing. You get dehydrated during the night. So get some water. Very simple to do. So spend 10 to 15 minutes doing your prayer, drinking water. And then what I do is I go sweat. Sweat allows me to start thinking. For whatever reason, it allows me to process my vision for the day or decompartmentalize what happened yesterday. And then I finally just let it go. So by the time I get home, I get a shower, and then guess what? I already beat most people in the morning before they even got out of bed.
Right.
So if you could win the morning, you're going to win the day. Is it going to be perfect? No. But are you going to start having success? Yes. And then once you start journaling, you just keep that journal with you. You're going to success leaves clues. So you're going to start giving yourself little notes during the day. Oh my goodness, this is working for me. This isn't working for me. So it's like a check and balance. And before you know it, in your journal, you're going to have a guide of where to go. So if you can do those little things, I would highly recommend that, just to start moving in the right direction.
Well, and I have something else that I like to share, because those are great motivators. Yeah, I get up early before anybody else does around here. And I have found that I do something that my father used to do. My father every morning would wake up, he'd go into the bathroom, look in the mirror, and he'd scream, "Hey, handsome, it's a new, beautiful day." Now, I don't scream it, I say it in my head.
Yeah.
But I look in the mirror and I acknowledge I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
and I see that it can be a good day.
Mm-hmm.
And when I start getting those twinges of frustration, aggravation, I have a husband of almost 39 years. So there are days that there's some aggravation going on around here. And I have a young adult son who still lives at home. I've learned that when I'm angry about something and I think it's about them, I separate myself. Mm-hmm. I let myself get angry privately, mm-hmm. and hear, why am I angry?
Yeah.
If I go tell them that, what's it going to accomplish?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, whatever that is, it's gone, because mm-hmm. most of those things are very temporary. Yeah. And that makes me very intentional about what I'm going to do going forward. Do mm-hmm. I slip and fall? Absolutely. I decided a couple of weeks ago I was going to fill my plate very heavy. Mm-hmm. And I started out the month of December doing anywhere from 12 to 14 podcasts a week. And wow. It came at the end of the week, and I loved everything I did, but I was so drained. I mm-hmm. didn't know how I was going to be on Monday doing it again. Mm-hmm. And so I finally went through my calendar, like you said, what's working for me, what's not. And I got through to a few people and said, we're going to rearrange the schedule, because I need to be there for you mm-hmm. and for me when we do the podcast. Mm-hmm. And so if you allow yourself to be aware of what's going on and those voices, we can all be successful. And it doesn't mean mm-hmm. I have to write a book like John. My success might be that I'm going to go bake a cake when I'm finished here. Mm-hmm. What makes you happy?
You're exactly right. Like you are unique. You have your own gifts and you have your own story. You don't have to. Another thing too is don't compare yourself to other people. That's the worst thing you could do. Be thankful for who you are. Like you said, I'm a handsome man, and I'm going to go conquer the world today. Right?
Right.
So that's what your job is the more you start talking like the self affirmations, right? That, you know what, you are a good person, you are a great person, you can do great things. And I always call it the fertilizer. What are you looking at? What are you listening to? What are you reading? Those are very important questions, because if you're watching the news, it's doom and gloom. It just is. That's why I shut off the news. I know what's going on. And if there's a major event, I'm going to find out from somebody in my family. So that's another great suggestion for people to do. And the big thing is that people just have to understand that you don't have much time in life. And I call it the rocking chair moment. And at the end of your life, and the reason why I say rocking chair is my vision is I'm on this beautiful piece of property. I don't know where it is. Beautiful. I'm on a front porch. I'm in my 80s, and my grandkids are around me, and they're going to say, "Hey, Grandpa, tell me some stories about your life." What are you going to tell them? "Oh, I should have done this. I wish I did this." You don't want to say that. No, you said, "I live life to the fullest, Mary Lou." And what I did was I wrote these books, I did these paintings, I educated across the country, I did podcasting, I did all these things because I wanted to experience life. But the beauty of the experience also, which is very vital, is presence, is essence. And those people who you have in your life, who you love, and your friends, is to be present with them, because those relationships that are forged are what really, I would say, bind that life story together. And it's so critical for people to understand that. So when you're having a conversation with somebody and you're flipping through your phone, whether you're talking to them on the phone or whether it's in person, that's distractibility. And that relationship that you have with that person is being just not, it's not being genuine to them or
Absolutely.
respectful. So I think, again, another point, I'll leave the last point, is when you're being truly present with somebody, put away your phone, look them in the eyes, and have an honest conversation. And how many people have done that in the past week without scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or what other social media platform?
Absolutely. Well, John, how can our listeners find you, especially your podcast? Give us some information.
The best way to contact me is through Instagram, and it's just JGrDina04. The podcast I have is called The John and then GrDina Classroom. And those are the two ways to find me. And if you want my email, I'll give my email. It's JGrDina@gmail.com. So those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Well, I know our listeners are going to start listening to your podcast, because I'll tell you, we all need, we need that guidance. We need a mentor in our life. And people shouldn't be too proud to ask for help. And sometimes asking for help just means, give me that link again to that podcast. I'm looking forward to the book. Do you have a idea when it may be completed?
I mean, it was completed, then we revamped some stuff. My wife is always my best editor chief and all the above, but it should be out, I'd say February or March at the latest. I'm turning 40 in March, so I want a lot of things to be kind of finished and birthed at that time.
So are you a Pisces or Aries?
Aries.
Okay, well, you and my husband, I'm a Pisces, so
okay. There you go.
You know what? We're all people. We all have a path, and like I said, just listening to you today, I knew what I wanted to do today. Mm-hmm. Now I want to do it a little differently. Mm-hmm. And just so our listeners know, my son decided that he wanted to rearrange his room, And so he finally listened to his mother. It was time to get rid of clothes from 10, 15 years ago. So my first chore that I'm going to do today is take a lot of things to either Goodwill or somewhere, because you know what? They're good clothes. So some of us may not have the extra money to make donations, but if any little thing that you can do that will help one more person, I think is the biggest, the biggest glory that we can have in life. And
Absolutely.
again, I want to thank you for joining us. We'll have to have you on after the book, and we'll talk just about the book at that time. Okay.
That would be great. I really appreciate your time too.
Sure. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
You too. Bye-bye.